Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, greetings. This is Pastor Chance, your host tonight for God, Church, and Politics. And I'm hoping that you can see me clearly. And I think the picture is clear according to me, but I'm not sure according to the viewers. Greetings, it's Chance Munthali. My name is Chance. I'm a pastor and a host for this program. God, Church, and Politics. God, Church, and Politics. We talk God, we talk the people, the church, and we talk the politics that surrounds us. Probably if you're here and this is your first time, I've spoken a while ago, and let me remind you the need for this program. The reason why we put up this program is simply because we are talking who is God? Who is this creator we call? As Christians, we know that God is supreme, sovereign, God who is self-existent, created man in his own image, in his own likeness. And so we discover who is God, and then we discover what is the church. Who is the church? The representative of God. We call ourselves as, and then we go on to discover about the politics, the stuff that happens around us. And for many, many years, as far as I have lived, come to discover that in the Christian circles, in the kingdom, we talk very little about politics. Mainly because we've called it dirty politics, that we say politics is dirty and we don't want to associate ourselves with dirtiness. We are clean people. The blood of Jesus has washed us. Hallelujah. We're just waiting to go to heaven. And but to some extent, heaven seems to be still waiting or standing far off. We're still enjoying earth. We are in this earth. And God says, Jesus says, I leave you in the earth, but you're not of this world. Christ in us, heaven in the inside of us. But what is this around us? What's this mess around us? We ought to be having heaven in the inside of us. Probably we should be having the best of times and the best of the nations around us. Okay, if I may bring you back to this understanding, we talk here about the politics of our nations. For the past months, if you like, or so, maybe a past year, if you like, I've been measuring on the politics of Malawi as a nation, and Africa probably here and there in some quarters, but I really measured on Malawi. And to be honest, I'm proud to say that if not, probably I should say that God, Church, and Politics contributed to the change of events in our nation. I'm Malawian, by the way, if you don't know. I'm Malawian, proudly Malawian from the northern part of Malawi. And I can probably say that my nation today celebrates a new change of governance, which has brought in a new lease of life. There is understanding, there's dialogue, there is acceptance, there is hearing, listening. It is a listening government. And most of the African countries, African as a region, as a continent, has got its problems within. It's not from the outside. It's not a white man. It's nobody coming from the outside. It's not the immigrants. We're going to probably even touch a little bit with Dr. David on that one, because in South Africa, I hear that some people are colluding or coming together to kick out the immigrants from South Africa, saying that they are taking our jobs and stuff like that. I'm thinking, hold on a minute. You got your brothers who are strangers in certain lands outside Africa. So to be talking about you're taking our jobs is just, I think, a weak mind that has failed to understand its identity and trying to blame somebody for their misery. Listen, I don't want to talk too much all by myself. I'm here tonight, not alone. I definitely have my friend in the studio, in Dr. David Kaluba. Welcome to the show. Listen, what's going on? My picture is so blurred. I can. I don't know.
Is that right? I have no idea why. Probably.
See me clear? Can you see me clear?
I can see you. It is a bright image. It might have come with the light, the lighting in the room where you are.
Oh wow!
But at least I can certainly see you.
Okay. I mean, let's just say that it's not gonna. People are not gonna be blurred to see this handsome face. Anyway, good evening.
Good evening, sir. Thank you for having me.
Good to see you. How has been your day?
My day has been great. Busy as always. It's nice and hot, so making the most of the British summer. as you know, it doesn't stay forever.
It doesn't stay forever. Before
No,
you
it
know it,
doesn't.
sometimes you can have 4 seasons in one day, isn't it?
Exactly, that's right.
Well, listen, it's always a joy to have you here. In fact, I must say it's an honor all the time to have you on this platform. For as long as I will live, I find it an honor to host you on different platforms of ministry. And welcome once again to this evening, where we're going to be talking about your birth, your motherland, and what is happening in there so far, and what's happening on the 12th of August. Let's start first things first. You are definitely true Zambian, right?
I'd like to believe so, yes, sir.
Right, okay. I don't want to dig much, because I remember claiming you the last time 2 months ago, claiming that this man is my brother from Malawi. Anyhow,
yes. We all come from somewhere at some point, all our ancestors or our roots, I suppose.
Yeah. And I think this is where the concept of let's make Africa to be just one big continent or nation comes from, isn't it? Stems from.
That absolutely, that's right. I believe there is need for that form of unification and unity, especially with trade and other things. I think our forebears, people that came before us, like Kwame Nkrumah, Kenneth Kaunda, that generation, Jomo Kenyatta, they believed in Pan-Africanism quite a lot. They believed in that kind of unification a lot more than today's generation.
In today's, who is more talking about this? Is it Julius talking more about Unite Africa, isn't it?
I suppose, yes. Even though it's probably not something that will happen anytime soon.
Right.
And the unification will not be what it was originally intended, which was to have one united nation under different sectors. That's never going to happen. But the unity that will probably happen is something to do probably with trade and things like that.
Right. Listen, I think like you were saying, there definitely is some sense in there that if we just come together and become one big nation in the continent of Africa.
Right. Okay.
But I think, like you're saying, I think you see the egos begin to play in when it comes to our leaders, isn't it? I mean, everybody's thinking, who's going to be at the top? Who's going to be the president then? I mean, where is the president going to come from? Those are kind of things that probably we'll be talking about now.
Yeah, that would definitely play a part in the challenges that would come with that. It wouldn't be easy to go down that route. I can safely say that I don't think anything like that will be happening anytime soon.
Yeah, you think nothing of that sort is happening very, very soon? No.
No, I don't think so. If political parties would have a problem working together in individual countries, how much more totally separate countries? I don't think we will see that in our generation. No.
We as Christians, I think one of the things that we can always say is, let's keep praying.
True. Yeah, well, I suppose there will always be a place for prayer. When we talk about politics and governance, I don't think we can separate God from, blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. So when you pray, you certainly make a difference. And Zambia, for one, is an officially pronounced Christian nation.
Christian nation.
That is correct.
This is where we're going to start from, Dr. David.
Yes, sir.
Zambia is official, and it's a Christian nation. It's not a republic like Malawians are going, we are a republic. We are not a Christian nation. What are the advantages? If you may just check a little bit, what are the advantages of being a Christian nation that you have seen in your days?
Advantages that I have seen is a difficult one to answer, but advantages in general of being a Christian nation, I suppose that I can talk about. There is something that comes with submitting to the Lord. I mean, obviously there are different religions in the world, and I'm talking from a Christian point of view because I'm a Christian. And being a Christian nation comes with it a huge blessing that the Lord places on a nation like Zambia, who are publicly, unashamedly Christian. I think the challenge comes in on the execution part of things, where the practice of it. It's one thing to profess to be a Christian, for instance. It's another thing to be a Christian. And so it is a wonderful thing. When President Frederick Chiluba pronounced Zambia a Christian nation, that was a jubilant moment, a great moment for the nation. And I believe that it means something. It is a huge thing. It has spiritual implications, of course, when you do that. You surrender your nation to the Lord. And so I think all that remains now is for us as a people to now practice that, if you like, in essence, without instead of just talking about it, put it that way. Because just because I go to McDonald's doesn't make me a cheeseburger, as we've all heard. So just because I'm a Christian doesn't make me one. I have to actually be one. Yes, sir.
And that's the what am I doing? That's the actual challenge sometimes that we have. What the statement that you've just concluded in, trying to summarize this up, the fact that I go to McDonald's doesn't make me a cheeseburger. No. We have seen, if I may just say and recall what I spoke to you a while ago.
Yes,
I
sir.
spoke about Zambia has a 95% or percentage of Christianity.
That's
surely
true.
We must have eradicated the problems if Christianity is an answer to a nation.
Right. So that's a good question. So if Christianity is the answer to problems facing any country, it means countries like Zambia would have no problems. You're right. If it was a direct correlation in terms of, if you have more Christians, you have more prosperity, you have more blessings. And this is why I believe I'm insisting on the fact that saying you are doesn't necessarily mean you practice things. So, but that doesn't mean it is the end of it. There is great hope, because that is the starting point. Submitting ourselves to the Lord is the starting point. Now, our practices must mirror that. They must mirror our faith. That means how we govern the country must mirror our Christianity, how we run our businesses, and that includes private businesses for entrepreneurs, as well as obviously other corporations that are more public in terms of government run, and how we run things, how we manage our finances, how we look after our people, how we distribute wealth. All these things must line up with what we confess to be, because if they don't, then we're just Christians in by name, but we don't really get to reap the benefits of the blessing that comes with Christianity, because that comes with the practice of it, not just the pronunciation or pronouncement of it. I hope that's making sense. And
that is that, Dr. David, that is.
Yes. Because when you think about it,
yes, I think.
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. I can hear you, sir.
Okay, so that's what I've been. Yeah, I can hear you. Right. So what I was saying is, again, my internet seems to be playing up. Apologies to the viewers if you're seeing a bit of intermittent picture. Is because of internet again. For some reason, I wonder whether we have the best internet in the UK. Come on, man. Anyway, let's go to this. This is one of the things, Dr. David, that I question. And the reason I felt it's important, let's discuss what is the problem, because we do have Christians in authority. We have people in government that consider themselves to be Christians, and they they pay their tithes in the churches, but they still have a practice of maliciousness in government of today. And Africa seems to be hampered by this in many places. What is, speak a little bit more. What is the problem with the, I remember before Pastor Chikonge, I had Pastor Chikonge, and we were talking about, I think it's just a bit of more like a theory. I'm a politician, I'm a Christian, but then I'm a politician. I think they do kind of like separate these things. Right. What is the actual problem in this?
Well, I believe if we're going to talk about the prosperity of a nation on the basis that it has Christian leaders, it all boils down to character, it boils down to the practice of Christianity, which I've already mentioned, and
Yeah.
it boils down to a true Christianity, if you like. It is one thing to say I'm Christian, and it is another. You've probably watched, award ceremonies and BAFTAs, and Oscars, and Emmys and all that. You get people that are definitely not Christians. They go up there. First of all, I'd like to thank God.
Thank God.
Yes. But the guy is not a Christian.
In the heart.
It's very easy to just say Christian things, and also because we have so many Christians, especially like you pointed out in Zambia, where you have such a high percentage of Christians. It's very easy to say things like that in order to appease the Christian population without actually meaning it. What we actually need is a caliber of leadership that actually practice what they preach, a caliber of leadership that will actually be able to execute Christian values and morals on the ground, and not just in a post on Facebook or a video on YouTube that is done, a marketing video or anything like that, or just a photograph. We have to go beyond that. We have to do better. What do I mean by that? So most of our problems are not rooted around prayer. I know we can call prayers, and that is good, and we should pray, by the way. However, most of our problems, exactly. I mean, if prayer was the solution to Africa's problems, including Zambia, trust me, we wouldn't have the problems we have.
Dr. David, hit that again, because if in the world, I think if I was to say, if there is a praying continent, then Africa is number one.
Absolutely.
And I'm not lying on this one. I mean,
you're right.
I've looked at a black man or a man of color climbing the mountains, going down in the valleys, secret places. Come on, you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying. Mountains climbing again and again, forgot to move. Then what? What next?
Well, it is all about the practice of it. So let's say, for instance, I say I'm a Christian, and I don't want to point out any political leader or anybody like that right now who's standing in Zambia. We have some prominent people standing who are at the forefront. Dr. Neves Bumba, the president incumbent himself, Edgar Lungu, and there is Hakainde Hichilema. You have people these are probably the main ones out there, and then you have a lot of other parties. But without pointing out anybody, I'll just use myself as an example. So if I were to run for president and I were to say, listen, I'm a Christian and I'm going to run for president, or I'm your president and this is how I'm going to run the country, we're going to prosper because I'm a Christian. What matters the most is are the practices that I'm going to employ because of who I say I am. So if I say I'm a Christian, that means I'm not indulging in the corruption that is damaging most African nations. If I say I'm a Christian, it means I'm not just looking at the prosperity of a few, but I'm looking at the prosperity of the whole land. If you look at Zambia, for instance, 64% or so, it's an approximation, of course, live under the poverty line. And so as a Christian, you're thinking, do you have a heart for such? Or are you just going to enjoy prosperity in small quarters? Or, I mean, how do you judge success in a nation? How do you judge prosperity? Is it because of the prosperity of the minority? Or is it of the prosperity of the majority in the country? And out of that 64% who live under the poverty line, but that literally means, according to the United Nations, the definition of the poverty line is people who live on under $2 a day. Which is about $60 a month per family. And then 40% of those are way below the poverty line, extreme poverty. And that means they live on something like almost like £1 a day or something like that. And so the question is, if I'm a Christian, what do I do for these people? How do I make sure that the prosperity that the country enjoys trickles all the way down? And I think these are the questions that we must be looking at and talking about. Right now, Zambia's inflation is back to its highest. Not surprisingly, election year, like in 2016, it went to 17.8 or something like that inflation. And I think it's above 17 already now, because this is an election year, which I can understand, but it has been high for a while. And this is no criticism on anybody, any particular one person, as I said. This is to point out facts that are on the ground and what is happening. And therefore, whoever aspires to lead the nation should not just be saying, let's pray. No, but they should be saying, let us ask for wisdom, not only ask for wisdom, but have the courage and the integrity and the character to execute what we say we believe in. So I can't just say I'm a Christian, but I'm not executing Christian values. And they include fairness, they include justice, they include prosperity for all. They include trying to deal with the spirit of death. How do we rise above it and prosper? All these are Christian values. God's will is that we prosper as Christians. In the same way as an individual, you want to prosper with the blessing. How can you prosper using the blessing as a nation? These are the things you look at.
Now, listen, just let me take a break a little bit.
Yes, sir.
To the viewers, let me welcome you once again. Chance Munthali is my name, your host on this show, God, Church, and Politics. Today, we're tackling the politics of Zambia. Zambia is going to the polls, or to the birthing room, on the 12th of August. The people got to vote a president of a nation. Is it fair to say that the one who's on now probably should carry on? Do we need change of governance? Somebody actually pointed out and said, Africans are a bit deluded. They think that change of governance is going to bring change of fortunes around. I mean, that is debatable. And I would say definitely we're not deluded. I believe that in some quarters, if there is a mayhem in a country, or there is bad leadership and bad governance, we surely need a change. But then I think the bigger picture of this statement is, let us first of all change how we think of who brings change to a nation. It's not just one man on the throne. The systems need to be tackled. The people need to change their mindset. Today, we are discussing Zambia. Is there hope for a nation? Is it same old, same old? Can we expect that there will be a rebirth of a nation that truly thinks that to have Christ is the genuine thing that brings about a prosperity, not only just for a few, but for all? Can we be proud of a Zambia after 12th of August? And not only, in fact, it's not just overnight, we say Rome was not built in a day. That's what they say. Rome was not built in a day. In other words, it took a while. We do understand that. But there's got to be guidelines and steps that are being taken to make it a better place for everybody else. Here's my, it's been my thinking for a while. What is wrong with Africa? I think the problem is we are not vocal enough and we are not active enough. And sometimes we've stood aloof, letting the people that are looting and manipulating and doing everything else stay there. And we don't care as long as they are related to us and they seem to give us a little bit bread and we are happy, we clap hands. It's time we wake up with our voice, with our action on the ground. And so you are here not by mistake. Do me a favor, share it with somebody else and tell them we're talking about the politics of Zambia. And everybody needs to be here. We need to talk about this together. I want to hear you in the comment sections. I want to know what questions you have so we can put it across. Let me just shout out to some of the people that are saying it. It says, we pray by fire, by force. Dilda Roberts, my sister, she goes, we pray by fire. Pastor Dr. David, surely we are with you in this one. This is a Malawian. This is my sister, by the way. This is my true sister. Okay, yeah, she says, we pray by fire, by force. We're going to make this happen, Dr. David, by fire, by force. This thing has to, Zambia has to come into alignment with God's purpose.
That's right. I mean, I believe with all my heart that, yes, there is a place for prayer and we should pray. And of course, you and I are pastors. We will advocate for prayer and we're going to pray. I believe that there are spiritual jurisdictions. We see in the book of Daniel, when Daniel had prayed a prayer, the Bible says that 21 days it took for his breakthrough to come to him. And when the angel of the Lord came with the help of the archangel Michael, it was said that it was because a principality that was in charge of that region was holding back the prayer. So there are principalities in charge of regions, Zambia, Malawi, England, wherever, even cities. And so there is a place for prayer. When you outseat or you defeat the principality on the nation of Zambia, of course, in the spiritual realm, that will have ramifications on the ground. It will have implications on the ground. And so there is a place for prayer. So I will not discount that. But at the same time, I'm very quick to say that prayer alone is not going to help Zambia or any other country that is wanting to come out. It is like you're saying to a Christian who is believing God for a job, what are you doing about it? And if the person just says, oh, I'm praying in my bedroom, they're probably not going to get a job. You know, it's not just going to come to, no CEO is going to come and knock on your door and say, I've heard your prayers, here's your job. You're going to fit in a job application and you're going to go for the interview and get the job. In the same way, we need to pray, yes. But then what do we do beyond that? And so when we have people in government, see, the thing is, this is actually frustrating, a little bit annoying to an extent. When you look at Africa, Zambia in particular, since we're talking about Zambia today, rich and wealthy in natural resources, and yet so much poverty. It tells you that the issue here is not that we are not blessed. In fact, we already have the blessing. So what we need to pray for is not even the blessing. God has already blessed us. We have mineral resources. We have natural resources. We are the second largest exporter of copper, in the world. That is incredible. We are blessed beyond measure. And in fact, Zambia has discovered much more than just copper. There are diamonds, there is gold in the land. There's all sorts. I think there's even uranium. There's all sorts in the land. And obviously, our soil is so fertile. You can pretty much grow anything.
Come on.
Yeah. Our people are educated, because that's no longer an excuse. Our people are educated. We've gone all over the world, and we have an educated population. So our prayers are not, oh, God bless us. Oh, no. Our prayers are now, we need integrity. We need honesty. We need character. If anything, if you want to pray, if you're watching us right now, and you want to pray for Zambia or nations like that, pray for leaders with integrity. That is what we need. Because it's mismanagement, by and large, in most cases. It's not a lack of, it is the mismanagement of what God has given.
Let me ask you again, and I want you to answer as clean as you've come on. You are saying we have educated people in Zambia.
Yes.
That leads me to say that for a good governance, it's not just because you are educated and intelligent. Is it fair to say? I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not despising
not necessarily,
education.
because sometimes you may have educated people that might qualify to run certain departments. I'll give you an example. If I'm running a company and I have a marketing,
DKG
sales,
Global.
Well, yeah, like for instance, one of my companies, that's right. So if I'm running a company like that, I have a choice when it comes to hiring. Am I going to hire you based on your skill set, or am I going to hire you because you're my cousin? And some African countries are run like that. People get positions, ministerial positions or whatever, on the basis of maybe what they did during the campaign or how much sacrifice, not because they are qualified for it. So while I know that we have a lot of educated people, it doesn't necessarily mean that the right people are in positions. And I'm not going to pinpoint anybody, but that it doesn't mean that the right people are in position.
And Dr. David, the reason I brought up this show is I want us to sometimes be as open and honest in calling out a spade a spade. Because sometimes we have a problem as Christians that we stand aloof in trying to call it the way it's supposed to be called.
Okay.
Just to link up, you talked about the fact that some people appoint because on the basis of relationships. I'm related. I don't know whether it's true. I don't know whether you've come across this. Yoweri Museveni has appointed his wife to be the Minister of Education or something. Have you seen that?
All right, exciting stuff. Okay.
That
Maybe
is you
qualified for it. Who knows?
But man, really? Come on. I know. Okay, fine. Let's not go into the politics of Zambia, but this is a syndrome in most African countries where many people come into position because they know somebody else.
That's right. Yes.
The systems of our nation, Dr. David, is not. It seems like they are alike. They are the same. Malawi, Zambia, Zimbabwe. It's kind of like the same. They want to employ you and as long as you give a backhander, you are colluding with them at the back, at the pub, This is spoiling.
Which is where the same Christian values we were talking about then obviously come into play. So if I claim to be a Christian leader, then integrity is expected of me, fairness is expected of me, and also having the wisdom to lead God's people. If we're saying we're a Christian nation, these are God's people, then let's lead them as they are, who are God's people. In other words, if I appoint somebody into office, it must be because they are the best person for that position. The reason being, I'm doing this for the betterment and the benefit of the nation. Not to appease anybody, not to gain favor from somebody, but for the goodness of the land. And in the same way, leaders should also be able to be honest enough to say, I cannot run for president, or I cannot run for being an MP or leader because I'm just not the right person. But obviously, it's very rare that you find somebody who's honest enough to say that. You find in some places where a leader would resign when they discover that they're not doing the country good, they will go. I mean, where we live here, you're in England, as I am. We have had, I'll give a good example of, in fact, I can go back to, let's go to Cameron, for instance. David Cameron had a mandate. He was putting across a motion to do with the referendum for the euro, to whether to leave, the Brexit thing that happened, whether to leave the euro or not. And when he lost that motion, he decided it looks like the people they don't want my vision. So
they don't want it.
Exactly. So I'm going to
step aside.
Let somebody else lead. Because then you're looking out for the interests of the nation and not just your own personal interests. Same way, he didn't lose an election when he left. Neither did Theresa May, who came after him. She felt, the Brexit thing and the management of it wasn't going very well under her leadership. She steps aside and somebody comes in. And so I'm using these as examples, not to say that the British government is perfect, but it's an example that is closest to me because I live here and I can see the politics here on the ground, which is to say that even in Africa, if we can have the caliber of leaders who not only are going to appoint the right people, I gave those examples because of the right person. So those people I mentioned are actually educated, but they stepped aside because they didn't feel they were the right people for that season. And so when we just appoint people on the basis that we know them or we're related to them, even though they're not qualified or they're not the right people, obviously we directly damage the country.
It's widespread. I mean, like just what you've just said about the system of somebody, if you mess up, you resign. I want to know, is this a white man thing?
You're bringing color here.
Let's be honest, Dr. David. Let's be honest. Where in Africa have you heard a minister resigning for blundering, for messing up? And when people call for your head?
They probably exist. Maybe I might not have specific names to give, but I'm sure that we do have a crop of leaders with integrity. It's not a large percentage, but I'm sure they exist. You've got people like Madiba, who stepped aside, after one term because he didn't believe that he should go on. We have people like Julius Nyerere, who actually passed away here in London when he got ill, who stepped aside because he didn't believe that he was, he should go forward. I think Magufuli, before he died, he did say he wasn't going to run again. So you do have some leaders who can do this, who can step aside when it is time for them to move on.
But we're talking, Dr. David, we're talking a fraction. I mean,
it is a small percentage, yes.
in this land where we are, in the United Kingdom, in America, it's white. I mean, you mess up, you go. Simple as. The people are saying you cannot represent us if you as a leader not going to stand up to what you put in place. I remember there was this minister of health. She was a minister of health, if you remember. Yeah, and I think it was. And I think if it's not Boris himself. Where she says social distancing, no visiting, and then she ends up somewhere else. And they bombarded her to say, you got to step down.
Yes.
She ended up leaving the position.
Because our leaders, I'll tell you why, Pastor Chance, is because the leaders in some nations like here are held to, basically you are accountable for
You're accountable. That's
if
what
you
I'm
hold
talking about.
a place. I'll give you an example. If for instance I'm not running for office, I'm running businesses and I'm making money and I'm doing well. And then somebody else who's running for office or is in government is also doing well. And then people come and say, you have to explain yourself. Tell us, how did you make that money, for instance? I can say, well, it's none of your business because I'm not running for office. But somebody running for office cannot say the same. You're a public servant. So you have to be accountable to the people that elected you. And so you can't preach one thing and do a different thing. You're not setting a good example for the nation, and you're not being a good leader.
My man Mahara thinks that people around the leaders sometimes are a problem, are the ones which make them say, no, it's okay. Do you think
it still boils down to who chose them, who put them around you.
That's it.
How did you surround yourself with corrupt people? How did you surround yourself with liars and people who cut shortcuts and people with no integrity? You can know a man's integrity by his friends. I'm proud of my friends. I love my friends. And if you check out my friends, you know what kind of man I am. And so if I surround myself with certain people, and you're right, my brother here, they are from the United States. I don't know which state exactly.
Yeah, USA, Indiana.
Indiana, that's right. And you're right. The people you surround yourself with will influence the decisions that you make. So again, we come back to Christianity. If you claim to be a child of God or a Christian, you're going to check the people that you surround yourself with. Unfortunately, you see, it might even be slightly a little late for our generation, because there is a saying in Zambia where I grew up, and since we are dealing with the Zambian economy, I'll say this. I know use our language or my language when I'm speaking or preaching, but there's a saying that says "Chumbumu nshololo." What it means is a sweet potato that has already taken its course and is bent a certain way is very hard to straighten when it's already because when you try to straighten it, you're probably going to break it. And so that is why I formed a foundation called Digger Global Foundation, where we try to shape the future by working with the youth and sharpening the youth, because I have great hope for Africa, Zambia included, in the future. For now, there are a few changes we can make because there are a few people with integrity that are aspiring to be leaders right now, but not many, not enough people. But in the future, we can work with the few we have and hope they get into power or in integral positions. But in terms of a proper overall or overhaul of the whole country, it is in the youth. It's changing the belief system of our young people so they can grow up a certain way, so they don't grow up burnt. I'll give you an example what I mean by that. If you try to stamp out corruption, for instance, in a country where the police force, for instance, are corrupt, and the reason being because maybe they are paid very little. So that is how exactly it means. Even if somebody does you wrong, you can't even take them to the law because the law won't do anything.
The law won't work.
Exactly.
The law won't work.
Absolutely. But if you have systems from the grassroots, everything is done. So now you've overhauled the system. The people that are upholding the law are well paid and they're well looked after, and they have no need to, not that I'm justifying corruption, they have no need to try to make some money on the side. Now you have a system that has a hope for thriving. At the same time, you have leaders who have so much power. I mean, how can you expect a judiciary to hold somebody accountable who's their boss, for instance? So we have a long way to go where systems have to change from the ground up. Sorry, go ahead.
And two things that probably before we hit Zambia as individual that I really want to add a little. In the United Kingdom, when you're talking about the police system that is safe, you can trust that when you go to the police, they're not going to sabotage, the justice. They will definitely do this, until justice is being done. It's because of they're well paid, but at the same time, here it is, David, they are monitored. The system is in such a way that you cannot do it privately where you're not monitored.
And you will be held accountable.
And you will be held accountable.
We've just seen the
Big Brother, the Big Brother introduction, I think is by far the best system I have seen to bring in, you know, to arrest corruption and bring in order and transparency. I think Africa need to adopt this. What is wrong? Why can't we do this?
It's a mindset. Once again, it takes me back to the re-education of our people, and not only educating those who are already grown up, which is a harder job, as I said, to do because they're already bent a certain way. So it's a re-education of the grown-up generation.
Okay.
But an equipment of the younger generation for the future, because that's where the greatest hope lies. What do I mean by that? Most corruption is rooted in greed. In fact, almost all corruption is rooted in greed. And not only greed, but also short-sightedness. In other words, corruption means whatever I can make right now, whatever I can get right now while I'm here, let me get. And I'm not thinking about tomorrow and tomorrow's generation. Exactly, because I am eating my children's inheritance. I'm eating my grandchildren's inheritance by doing that. And when you're a leader, your grandchildren go beyond the ones you're related to.
Definitely.
Your children go beyond the ones that you're related to by blood. The whole country, they're your children. They're your grandchildren. So every time you sabotage their inheritance, you're sabotaging the inheritance of your children in the country because you chose to be their father.
Go on. Go ahead.
I'll give a good example. If, for instance, I could pretend to show that I'm giving development to you by building certain infrastructure that look like development without telling you how I built that,
I'm getting it into,
and what kind of loans I'm using to do that, and how toxic they may be in terms of the negotiations. So one of the things Africa needs, including Zambia, is good negotiating skills. If we which brings us back to having the right people in position. If we can have people that can negotiate good contracts, my goodness me, we will be loaded as a country because we have what it takes.
Because we have the resources.
Yeah. But
we have the resources.
To negotiate a dodgy contract just so I can get paid today.
Come on.
I forget about my children's future and my grandchildren's future. And these include the whole country.
One of the things that I must commend my president, Dr. Lazarus Chakwera, is he said the statement you said, that when you're a leader, you're not just a leader to your own grandchildren, blooded grandchildren.
That's right.
But you are of the nation. A statement that came from him is like, God has called me to pastor a nation. Oh, that's wow. Good. What a powerful statement that is. I mean, somebody with vision and understood. In fact, let me also comment. Dr. David, if I may say that I think it also rises and falls on a leader for accountability and transparency systems in a nation. I'll give you an example. Dr. Lazarus Chakwera, who comes in, you know, there was a report that came out that exposed some maliciousness with the COVID-19 money that was given out. One of the people that actually embezzled the money was the Minister of Labor. The Minister of Labor. And to some extent, if I'm not wrong, somehow he is a bit known or a bit related with the president. Somehow. But here it is. He took no time to fire him out of the door because he is trying to exercise integrity and showing the way we're going to do this from this now on. It's never been in the history of Malawi. I mean, ministers were kingpins that you cannot touch them. And I remember some of them coming up on the TV and saying, government is like this. You play with government, it's going to eat you up.
I mean, when you look at and that's great to see that. I'm glad that is happening in the nation of Malawi right now. Things are changing. But when you look at, I'm a great student of history. I love to study and I love to look at what people are doing and what works and what doesn't work. And when you look at countries that are thriving or that have done well, that have been able to turn things around, obviously, God bless his soul, Magufuli's country is one of those. Tanzania, who they did great things, amazing things, as a result of a certain set of leadership. And even the Mwanawasa era, arguably probably the best time Zambia ever enjoyed, if you like, as a nation. If you look at the things that President the late bless his soul, Levi Mwanawasa implemented, you will find that there is a correlation, there is a similarity in what Magufuli was doing, what Mwanawasa began to do, though it was a very short period of time and he went home to be with the Lord. And I don't want to discuss countries like Rwanda, for instance, because what Paul Kagame has done in Rwanda, I think would not be a fair example to use for other African nations, because I don't think it's replicable. I don't think you can replicate what Rwanda has done for very simple reasons. You can replicate what Magufuli was doing, or even what President Mwanawasa started doing in Zambia, which is integrity, cutting back on what people spend and politicians, and cutting back on the extravagance. Basically learning to live within your means, and learning not to just live on handouts, and learning to borrow responsibly, knowing that you're going to be able to afford to pay back, not just for the sake of borrowing so you can look brilliant. There are many principles that we can employ. The Kagame example, the reason why I don't even entertain it, as much as I salute what he has done there to a large extent, it is not replicable. You cannot use it anywhere. It's because it's military. He is a soldier who runs it as a soldier, and what he says goes. It's a form of, I don't want to use the wrong word because I have respect for him. It is almost as if it's not democratic, put it that way. That's the best way I can say it while keeping my respect. It is not a democratic system where you can vote and say, oh, maybe let's do this, and he says, okay, let's compromise. No, what he says goes. It's run as an army. And so they have executed his vision on the basis that nobody could have argued with it. So it's a brilliant thing they've done well, but you can't replicate it anywhere, and certainly not in Zambia, because obviously we have a democratic situation where other people will have a say in how you want to run the country. Even though the president does have a lot of power, you still have people that will speak. And so by and large, we can do this, sir. We can learn.
Can you verify? Somebody saying Levi Mwanawasa was Zambia's best president. Do you agree to that?
Yes, arguably yes. I mean, I love me my Kenneth Kaunda, but he made a mistake.
I wanted to say the same. I love me my Kenneth. I love me my Kenneth. But
it's very close to my heart, But yeah. Father of the nation, but arguably in terms of progress, the economy, and values, even fighting corruption and all that, and just rule of law, and he was a great man. I had an opportunity of meeting the man in London a few months before he passed on. Just a great man, and you could have a conversation with him, and he will listen to you, and they will implement. One of the things we were fighting for was dual citizenship, and he kicked it off for us. He heard us, and he pushed it through, and eventually, I believe, after some time, we now have that. But he was a great man in the sense that he was cutting back on spending. They managed to cut back on debt, for instance, and borrow responsibly. Look at this way, Pastor Chance. It's very simple. It's very straightforward. Think of a nation like a family. When you run a family, there are two ways you can go as a family. You can prosper as a family, or be a broke family, and it's very easy. You can prosper as an individual, or you can be broke as an individual. In the same way, you can prosper as a country, or you can be broke as a country. There are some countries who don't have half the resources we have, and yet are more prosperous than we are.
More prosperous,
Because there are simple rules. If you want to be broke, here's what you do. Spend more than you earn. Simple. You're on your way to poverty.
Borrow more than you
can afford. Simple. You're on your way to poverty. They're very simple rules. And then if you want to prosper, spend less than you earn. Simple. And only borrow what you can afford. Live within your means and live in seasons. Don't try to drive a Maserati when you can't even afford the fuel. Drive a car that you can afford now. Then in the future, you'll be able to buy a Lamborghini, because now you've accumulated a certain level of wealth. It's the same thing with the country, but obviously you need people in place who can make those decisions, that difficult decisions. Austerity measures are never easy. When you're in power, you want luxury, you want flamboyancy. So austerity is not easy, but these are sacrifices that as a leader you make for the future and for the betterment of your nation and your people. And that is what we need. That's why I said, if we need to pray, that is the prayer. Give us leaders of integrity. Give us leaders that will be honest and do the right thing. Please give us people, men and women of character. Now, if you're going to call for prayer, that is it right there. Of course, pray for peace. In any election year, we'll pray for peace. But that is the greatest prayer right there. Lord, give us a crop of leaders who will have the integrity to do the right thing and to practice what they preach.
It's high time, Dr. David. It's high time Africa in general woke up and did the right things. And I believe with all my heart that we've got capacity, we've got ability. All we just need to do is to, rise. Like the Bible talks about rise, shine.
That's right, yes.
You know what I mean? It's pure. We've got it. And as you're saying, the prayer points that you've put across, very powerful. Give us a crop of leaders that will execute what is necessary for this for our nations, and even after, Dr. David, even after when these people when they take positions, it's not an easy thing for somebody to be fearless, for somebody to execute it according to God's plan. The other day I said it like this, and I was talking to I think it was Bishop Derek Chunda of Authentic City. I said that one of the things I feel that Dr. Lazarus has come into power to do is to put in a system, a transparent system. So when he leaves office, that kind of a governance, nobody will manipulate it again. That's how I feel. I'm telling you, this is passion I have in my heart, and I believe that if the president of our nation, Malawi, can stick to the fire, to the vision of God's heart, which is on his heart, to execute certain things. Not everybody may like it, because see, when we are putting these cornerstones in place, not everybody's going to like it. If you're rooting when you're rooting out corruption, not everybody's going to applaud. The people that were eating it, they're gonna cry out foul.
You see, the irony of it, in fact, Pastor Chance, is that when we make irresponsible decisions today, I'll give you a practical example. You and I and our viewers, I'm sure, understand this. If you get a mortgage, it's a big loan. You're talking, 250,000, 500,000, a million, whatever. It's a big loan. That means it's going to take you time to pay it back. So they'll probably give you 25, 30 years to pay back, that mortgage, because it's a big loan. Now, as a responsible borrower, for instance, you want to think of sustainability and of the future. What happens? Because in most cases, when you look at governments, now that's a 30, 20-year loan. If you look at the money that governments would borrow, they're probably bigger sums of money than that, which means they are not repayable in 2 years or
no.
Exactly. They are repayable over a longer period of time. What does that mean in essence? If you get a mortgage that is 20, 25 years, 30 years old, you will probably still be around, still paying the mortgage by the time the tenure of the mortgage payment finishes. However, in politics, I'll use Zambia as an example, you can only stand or run for office or be in power for 2 terms. That means whatever you borrow today, you must think about the future, because you won't even be here to repay. So the challenge we've had is that our current leaders, and I'm not talking about the current government, I'm just talking generally, leaders who have borrowed money. The problem is they have borrowed based on what we can get out of it right now, but without thinking about the fact that this loan is a 20-year-old, a 50-year-old loan, and I'll be long gone. So the decisions I make have far-reaching implications far beyond my time in office. And if we start thinking like that, then we will be much more careful in how we make financial decisions on behalf of the nation.
You and me have spoken a bit in terms of a country borrowing, especially allowing an outsider giving us some money without really having to look into their motives, and call a spade a spade. Let's put it this way: China loans coming into the many parts of Africa. I think this is a one-way China colonizing Africa again. Let's be frank. Like you're explaining, if we are not careful, we will find that our children born today will be paying the debt that was borrowed 10 years ago.
Yes, sir. And you know, Pastor, there is nothing wrong with borrowing. And I just want to clarify that. There is something I call good debt. Okay, there is bad debt, and then there is good debt. Bad debt is the one that you borrow to spend on liabilities. Good debt is the one that you borrow to spend on investments. That would actually almost every company out there, whether it's Microsoft, Apple, whatever, Amazon, no matter how rich they are, they've borrowed at some point to get where they are. And so you know that there is borrowing will be there. The question is, are you borrowing sensibly? For instance, there's a bank, there are different lenders, and then there are those loan sharks. And the question is, these loans, are they good
loan sharks, or
are they loan shark type of loans? I think that's the question. Or are they good loans? So there is, and when we get these same loans, that's the first question. Are they loan shark type? What kind of interest are we getting? Are we negotiating a good deal for our people? And then after and if we're gonna get a great deal, praise God, that's good. I salute you, our leaders, for doing that. Next question is, how do we manage the funds that have come in? Are we gonna direct them towards liabilities, which makes it a bad debt? Because if we're just gonna spend the money and squander it and make maybe cheap rosa, we just break down in 3 years, then obviously that becomes a liability. We've squandered the money, it's a bad debt. But are we gonna invest it in things that will produce? I'll give you an example. The rest of inflation, for instance, inflation can be good for a country, but it can also be bad for a country. Okay. For a developed, thriving nation, inflation is actually good, because this is what inflation does. Inflation forces people to, because the cost of living goes high, things are more expensive, so people are spending more. So things are more expensive, and so as a result, the production industry has to produce more goods in order to meet the market because of high inflation. And as a result, that will create more jobs for production, which is again good for the country, and a lot of good things come with that. So the same inflation, at the same time, take it to a country where there is no production, for instance. If you have a nation that doesn't produce anything and everything comes from outside, this is now what happens. Inflation goes up, it means spending will go up, things are expensive, prices will go up, it means you need more goods to come in. Now, if you're not producing your own goods, there will be no increase in employment in your country. There will be an increase in employment in South Africa, for instance, who are giving you the things that you need, or China, or England, or America, because they are the ones feeding the demand that is rising in the nation as a result of inflation rise in your nation. So the beneficiaries are the people that are bringing in goods, the companies that are coming to invest in your country, and not the people on the ground. So the only jobs you have left now are just not the production jobs, but just the jobs on the ground when people come to bring the goods into the nation. And so pretty much that is where we stand. We have a long way to go, but there is hope. I believe with all my heart that we can turn things around.
Having sat under you speaking right now, I feel I've been lectured and I qualify to be Minister of Trade and Industry. So Dr. Lazarus Chakwera, if you're looking for a man who can do a good job in that industry, I present myself, sir. Listen, the way you've put it, I mean, the panel, the viewers are being lectured. The viewers are being lectured, and of course, so let me say to my people, I didn't just pick up this man because he's a pastor. I picked him up because he's got a business degree or doctorate, and also you've done research in the biomedical science, where so there is a research mind at the same time. Understanding about business, which is powerful. You are a combination of everything that I needed on this platform. Now, listen, I don't have much time for. I know I need to bring you back. Please, Dr. David, promise my viewers you will be back.
By all means, by God's grace, we can. I think there's a question here from somebody called Favor Peary.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to talk that? Because of go ahead.
Probably before we go, it's probably worth answering. What do you think about the petition in the Constitution Court? Do you think the first law will be executed? Legitimate president contesting third term. Okay, basically, this one is straightforward and not straightforward at the same time, because it is straightforward in the sense that yes, there are legitimate arguments. The only issue is that the arguments are legitimate on both sides. So both the government probably have a legitimate argument, as well as the people that are petitioning. Now the challenge is, as I said, when the sitting president is your boss and you are the judiciary or the law, it becomes very tricky to actually work very well independently. Not that the president will influence, but the very fact that he's your boss, number one, it already has an impact on how you're going to behave. Number two, when a candidate has already been adopted by ECZ, which is the Electoral Commission of the nation, chances are they're not going to overturn that. It's not going to turn back around. I think it is probably not a worthwhile, if you like, pursuit, because I do not think personally, this is my opinion, I do not think that it will amount to anything. I don't think that they will block Lung from standing, and if he wants to stand, I think they should allow him. And I think their opposition party leaders, if they know who they are and what they carry and what they're bringing, I think they should just compete fairly and not try to make excuses or disqualify some people. No. If I'm a good runner and I'm a good athlete, I don't care who's on the field. Let's go. You know, so okay. if the opposition parties and with all due respect to our father Dr. Mumba and Daka and Ichilem and all the other ones, if they are saying, listen, by the way, I'm not quoting any of their views on this one. In fact, even though I've heard them speak, and I think they've made very good points, both of them. But if they're saying, listen, it doesn't matter who's on the pitch. Usain Bolt, you know, I love my athletics, didn't care who was there. I was like, whatever, let's go. You know, I'm going to beat you. Exactly.
Let's go.
Exactly. If you are good to go, it doesn't matter who's there. If he's not the right person, people will not vote for him, which is another thing we cannot go without just pointing out the power of your vote. That's probably something we should come back and talk about. Don't stay away. Go out there and vote. And that includes Christians. Come on, people. Go out there and don't, when you go to vote, obviously, don't vote based on what your tummy or what they promised you or what they put in your hand. No, think about the future of your children and your grandchildren. Whom you put in position determines who is going to manage the blessings that God has given us as a nation. And as a result, if the one who is there right now is the right person, keep them there. If you believe they are the right person, let them continue to manage God's resources so we can prosper as a nation. If they are not the right person, vote for the right person who needs to be there to manage God's resources for the nation so we can prosper together. But whatever you do, I'll say one more thing and I'll shut up. It is a secret balance, okay? Only because many people are troubled by this. When you are in the booth, there are no CCTV cameras in your booth, okay? Nobody can see you. Nobody is watching. Please understand this. You are by yourself. So it's just you and
do
God.
The right thing by yourself.
Scared, even if they bought you. Tarino, you remember those drinks? Zambians would remember. It doesn't matter. Drink the tip top. In fact, if it's very hot during elections, use some of that tip top and then go in the booth and make your decision on the basis of where you would like this nation to go. I have great hope for Zambia. I'm a great believer in the prosperity of our land, and it will prosper, sir.
This is God, Church, and Politics. I'm your host, Chance Munthali, and my guest in the studio is Dr. David Kaluba, originally from Zambia, a biomedical scientist, an executive, a doctorate holder in business. And you can tell the passion that the man has. He's based in Bradford, Yorkshire. I normally say Bradford and Bingley, but it's in Yorkshire, guys. The man is loaded. Surely, I believe that with this kind of information, that the Christians on the ground, and I pray that we that are connected on this platform right now can deliver the message on our platforms as well, to be able to tell them one message: let's do the right thing. I mean, we have got power to change governments. We've got power to extend the rulership. Let's do the right thing. Let's be wise enough. Let's have the godly fear to do the right thing in the booth. He says there is no CCTV in the booth. Zambian, Mwanfwa. Okay, let's get back to Dr. David. Dr. David,
Yes,
last word.
Okay.
I know you've got too much. We can actually, we didn't talk much about Zambia, so we're going to come back. This month, we are talking the Zambian politics. In fact, until August, we are talking the Zambian politics. Of course, we're going to be skipping. I want you, by all means, also next week, because next week, the topic I want to talk about is Israel and its politics.
Oh,
and there's stuff happening with Israel at the moment. If I may just break the ice a little bit, I don't know what's your opinion on this. My friend, Minister Mahara, he may be shocked by me saying this. He somehow advocates a state of affair which I find somehow questionable. The question I have whenever I hear him say, of course, he's talking about our president trying to establish an embassy in Israel, and something that he does not support. Me, on the other side, my question is, should you be my enemy, Dr. David, because somebody else is my enemy? Because I remember the other day, I know I'm poking Minister Mahara, so I need you on my show if you are hearing me, and Dr. David and a few men. But because the other day, Nelson Mandela was asked a question in the panel of the American Minds, and you probably have seen this clip before. They asked him a question, I think, of this guy who I think almost every white American was hating the folk. And they said, you visited, I think it was Libya. Was it Libya? So they questioned him. How come you seem to be friends with this guy, and yet this guy is a murderer? He said one thing, he says, the problem you guys have is that your enemies, you want them to be our enemies. People clapped. Now, I bring to the very same understanding. Should your enemies, not should be your enemy, but just because, this is not just about enemies, but should I hate you, David, because everybody hates you? That's my question about Israel. So, not today. Wow. Even you, I do not permit you to talk about it. Okay, I'm just giving you a tantalizing subject. We're going to talk about this because there's so much noise about Israel. Wow. Oh, let's not be friends with Israel, or else we are tapping into terrorism into our nations. Really? Okay. Anyway, last word for your nation. Zambia goes to the polls. What is your last word before we close?
Yes, sir. For Zambia, if you don't get to watch us again before you go to vote, what I have to say to you, my fellow citizens, my fellow countrymen and women, is that the future of our nation is in our hands. The future of Zambia is in your hands as an individual. Together, we can make a difference. Together, we can change things. And we don't need to be swayed by the status quo of how it should be or how people believe it's always been, or let's just go with it, with the flow. No. Let us think proactively. Let us think of the future, and let us make decisions that are based on the goodness and the betterment of our nation and of our people. And not only decisions that benefit us today who are alive in this generation. In fact, most of the hard work that we will put in our generation, we probably won't be able to benefit from it, but our children will. And our
grandchildren. That is critical.
And absolutely something we have to bear in mind. Let us strive. Let us vote with the future in mind. Don't vote with your stomach today. Today is a little too late for your vote to touch your stomach, if you like. It will touch your stomach up to maybe 30%, but not the 100%. The 100-fold will come for our children and our great-grandchildren and the future of our nation. So let us sacrifice our private, personal greed and desire today. In other words, let's not eat our future today. Use your vote. I'm coming to vote, okay? Use your vote, make it count, and let us pray on top of that. God will give us the right people in place to lead our people to prosperity, because that is our portion. We are a Christian nation, and that means a prosperous, blessed nation. And may God bless the nation of Zambia more and more from this day forward, in Jesus' name.
We are here for that reason to to poke you, to wake you up, to shake you, and tell you it's time. Africa, it's your time. Zambia, it's your time.
Amen.
Let's bring in the right people in position. Let us not run away from our responsibility. God has given us an opportunity in the time when we are alive. Let's do the right thing. You know, let's be proud of our nations again. Can I preach this? I feel like preaching right now, but hey. Chance representer. Yeah. But let's do the right thing. The resources are in Zambia. The resources are for the Zambians. Let everybody enjoy this. We should not be living like we are in 1964 when we got independence, or 1962, whatever independent day Zambia got. But let's live in the now. Generations after generations, there have been, creativity come into place, regenerations and creativity that is forming other nations. We as Zambians can also make our Zambia great.
Amen.
And it is dependent on your vote. Vote wisely. In the booth, there are no lights that are being connected to the state house of saying, okay, I know you voted for that one. It's you and your God integrity. Use it wisely. Be fearless. Fear God and do the right thing.
Amen.
Listen, the passion you can tell, and this is a passion for my Africa. This is our time. Listen, hashtag, this is our time. Hashtag Zambia 2021 and beyond. Let's change. Then let's change how things will be done from now on. Let's tell them we possess the power to change our nation, and we are waking up to do just that. We are the people, and the power is with the people. Come on now, Zambians, my fellow Zambians, it is time. You've heard Dr. David, and I don't want to take much of your time, but I just want to say the passion I have for my nations, for my nation, Africa. We've talked about this at the beginning. Probably if you missed it, catch us again. But I promise you, I'll bring Dr. David again. We are talking Zambian politics until Zambia goes to the polls. And we believe with all prayer, we believe with all noise, we believe with all action on the ground. Dr. David is not just telling you to go and vote. He himself is coming down on the ground to help you vote and vote wisely. I'll see you next week when we talk about Israel. But for today, this is it. Dr. David, God bless you so much. Thank you once again for coming on.
Thank you, sir.
I'll see you hopefully next week. We will talk about that.
Yes, sir.
But,
thank you for having me.
Have a good night. God bless you.
Bless you, sir. Good night.
All right. That's how we end it tonight. God bless you. Have a wonderful evening. Once again, when you see this come up, God, Church, and Politics is going deeper, stronger, and better. Hopefully next time we can not only just have Dr. David, but we'll have some other politicians from the ground in Zambia, that can talk to us about their aspirations and what is it that they're passionate to do when they get in there. We don't want same old. We're tired of our people living in the poverty lines as if Zambia is poor. This is our Africa, and we're changing it. Whether the devil likes it or not, we are awakened. See you next week. God bless you. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.